Right now, a single senior in this country can receive $950 a year they may not even know they qualify for, and it has nothing to do with CPP or OAS. It's tied to a benefit that changed its name just last month, and if you don't know the new name, you might scroll right past it on your bank statement and think it's a mistake. Stick with me for the next few minutes because by the end of this video, you'll know your exact August payment date, your updated dollar amounts, and what that unfamiliar deposit on your statement actually is. Welcome back. If you're new here, I spent years as a financial advisor working directly with retirees, and now I spend my time doing one thing, translating government benefit updates into plain English, so you don't have to wade through confusing websites to understand your own money. Let's start with the date you're really here for. Your Canada Pension Plan payment, known as CPP, and your Old Age Security Payment, known as OAS, both land on Thursday, August 27th, 2026. That applies whether you receive CPP Retirement, CPP Disability, a Survivor Benefit, or OAS. If you have direct deposit set up, the money typically clears that morning. If you still receive a paper check, give it a few extra days to arrive by mail, and if it hasn't shown up within a week or so past that, that's worth a call to Service Canada, which is the federal department that administers these benefits. Here's something worth understanding because it explains why this date moves every month instead of sitting still. CPP and OAS are paid on the third to last business day of each month. Count backward from the end of the month, skip weekends and statutory holidays, and you land on the date. That's why July fell on the 29th and August falls on the 27th. It's not random and it's not a delay. It's simply how the calendar works out. Now let's talk about the numbers because this is where a lot of viewers start paying closer attention. OAS increased by 1.2% for the July through September quarter, and that increase is still in effect for your August payment. For seniors aged 65 to 74, the maximum monthly OAS payment is now $751.97. For seniors 75 and older who receive an automatic 10% boost that's been in place since 2022, the maximum climbs to $827.17. Over the past 12 months, from July of last year to this July, OAS has risen a total of 2.3%, which reflects the overall cost of living. But here's what a lot of people miss. Those are maximum amounts, not guaranteed amounts. Your actual OAS depends on how many years you lived in Canada as an adult, and CPP depends entirely on what you contributed during your working years and when you chose to start collecting. Let me give you a real-world example. Doreen, 68, spent 30 years as a hospital dietitian in Truro, Nova Scotia, before retiring at 65. Because she contributed steadily and started her CPP right at 65, she receives close to the average CPP retirement amount, which sits well below the maximum most headlines mention. If you're ever unsure what you personally receive, your My Service Canada account, which is the secure online portal Service Canada provides, shows your exact figures rather than a national average. Now here's a benefit that runs alongside CPP and OAS for lower income seniors, and it's one I want to make sure you understand clearly because the annual reset just happened. It's called the Guaranteed Income Supplement, or GIS. GIS is a non-taxable monthly top-up for OAS recipients with limited income, and it gets recalculated every July based on your income from the previous year's tax return. For the current quarter, a single, widowed, or divorced senior with income under roughly $22,800 a year, not counting OAS itself, can receive up to $1,123 a month in GIS. If you're part of a couple, the maximum and the income threshold both look different, so it's worth checking your own numbers rather than assuming. Here's why this annual reset matters so much, and why I bring it up every year around this time. If your income changed in 2025, maybe you stopped part-time work, sold an investment, or increased your withdrawals from a registered retirement income fund, your GIS amount could have shifted with this July recalculation, and that shift carries through your August payment too. It can go up, it can go down. It depends entirely on what your 2025 tax return showed the CRA, which is the Canada Revenue Agency, the federal body responsible for taxes, and many income-tested benefits. This brings me to something I say in almost every video because it's the single most common reason seniors lose money they're entitled to. File your taxes every year, even if you had no income to report. The CRA and Service Canada use that return to calculate GIS, the benefit we just discussed and the one we're about to cover next. A late or unfiled return doesn't just delay a refund, it can pause your GIS payments entirely until it's sorted out. Now let's talk about a benefit that many of you have written and asking about because it changed names this summer and it confused a lot of people. For years, this was called the GST or HST credit, a quarterly tax-free payment based on your income to help offset sales tax. As of this July, it has a new name, the Canada Groceries and Essentials Benefit, or CGEB. The eligibility rules, the calculation method, and the overall structure are exactly the same as before. If you were receiving the GST credit, you're very likely still receiving this benefit just under its new name and at a meaningfully higher amount. Here's the good news buried in that name change. Along with the rebrand, there was a 25% increase to the benefit, locked in for 5 years, running through 2031. Many of you also received a separate one-time top-up payment back in June on top of your regular quarterly amount. Let me give you a concrete example so this isn't just an abstract number. Walter, 71, a retired heavy equipment operator in Red Deer, Alberta, has a net income of $25,000 a year. Under the new CGEB structure, a single senior at that income level receives a one-time top-up of $267, plus an ongoing increase of $136 for the current benefit year, for a combined boost of $402. Added to his existing credit, Walter's total CGEB support for the year comes to roughly $950. If you're supporting a household rather than living alone, a family of 4 with $40,000 in net income sees their annual total rise to about $1,890. Do you need to apply for any of this? No. If you already qualify for what used to be called the GST credit, this new benefit is issued automatically by the CRA. There's no separate form, no new application. The only action required on your end, once again, is making sure your tax return is filed and processed, because that's the trigger that tells the CRA what you're entitled to. Let's touch briefly on something that affects fewer of you, but matters a great deal if it applies to you. The OAS recovery tax, often called the clawback. This is a reduction to your OAS pension that kicks in once your individual net income rises above a certain threshold. For 2026, that threshold sits at approximately $90,997. Above that line, your OAS is reduced by 15 cents for every dollar of income, and if your income climbs high enough, that reduction can eventually bring your OAS down to zero. If you're managing withdrawals from an RRIF, a registered retirement income fund, and you're anywhere near that threshold, this is genuinely worth a conversation with a tax professional. Even small adjustments to timing or withdrawal amounts can sometimes make a real difference to what you keep. One more thing worth flagging now so it doesn't catch you off guard later in the year. There is no 13th or bonus payment in December. Instead, the December deposit simply arrives earlier than usual, landing around the 22nd, which creates the longest gap of the year, roughly 5 weeks before the next payment shows up in late January. If you budget carefully month to month, it's worth penciling that gap into your plans now. So let's bring this together. Your CPP and OAS payment lands Thursday, August 27th, 2026. OAS sits at $751.97 for those 65 to 74 and $827.17 for those 75 and older. GIS for qualifying lower-income single seniors can reach up to $1,123 a month. And that unfamiliar name on your statement, the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, is simply your old GST credit, renamed and increased by 25%. If there's one single takeaway I want you to walk away with today, it's this. None of these numbers matter if your tax return isn't filed and processed, because every one of these benefits flows through that return. I know that's a lot to take in, and that's exactly why I break these updates down every single month, so you don't have to go digging through confusing government pages on your own. If this video gave you some clarity today, consider subscribing so you don't miss next month's update, when we'll walk through exactly how to read your Notice of Determination from the CRA and what those line items actually mean for your benefits. Until then, take care of yourself, keep an eye on that August 27th deposit, and I'll see you in the next one.